Does the ability to cross an occlusion and perform venoplasty a skill set that reduces cost and improves patient outcomes? You can see here we have a fairly tight occlusion when we injected 20 mLs of contrast. Given the location and severity of the occlusion, it seems clear that a glide wire was not going to be sufficient, and that to cross the occlusion, an angled hydrophilic catheter with pushability and torque control is required. Now, to understand the difference between the catheter types, if you have braid incorporated in the plastic of the catheter, that provides pushability and torque control. So the upper panel here, we have an angled catheter with braid incorporated, and you'll notice that it's straight. A similar catheter without braid is, as you can see, not straight and doesn't really have any pushability or torque control. So it's important to pick one with torque control and pushability. The one we're going to use here is a 5 French 65 centimeter angled braided hydrophilic catheter from Merit Medical, and the order numbers are below. To put in a braided catheter, it's best to start with a short 5 French sheath. Remember, the internal diameter of the sheath is 5 French, while the outside diameter of the catheter is 5 French. So you want to get the 5 French sheath into the circulation, and you do that carefully so as not to disrupt the anatomy. So once you have the sheath in place, then you insert your 5 French Ka2 catheter and manipulate it towards where the opening is, using little puffs of contrast through the injection system. And you can see here we're able to determine where the occlusion ends, and that there's a small opening, and we're going to manipulate the catheter into that opening and then advance the catheter as far as it'll go into the occlusion. Now at this point, it's important that this catheter has a hydrophilic coating on it so that it's slippery like a glide wire. That's one of the other important features of the catheter. So here we have the catheter as far as it'll go, and here you can see the occlusion. And we tried to advance an 035 glide wire, but it would not go through the occlusion. So then we switched from an 035 glide wire, and that was replaced with an 018 polymer tip V18 control wire. Now remember, a polymer tip wire has a black coating on it, so it's the same slippery type of a catheter, or same slippery type of a wire that you would get with a glide wire, but it's an 018 wire. So using that 018 wire, we're able to advance through this extremely narrow area here, and you can see this is the 018 wire now in the central circulation. Ordinarily at this point, we would advance the Ka2 catheter over the wire and into the central circulation to upsize for an 018 wire, but the occlusion was so tight that the 018 wire wouldn't go, that the Ka2 catheter wouldn't go. So we put an 018 balloon, a low profile balloon that was designed to go over an 018 wire through the occlusion and to predilate. So this is the 018, this is the balloon with a lumen of 018 going over the 018 wire into the central circulation through that very tight area that you saw previously. The balloon was inflated to rated burst pressure, central to the occlusion at the innominate SVC junction, and then inflated head to tail overlap between the SVC and the pocket. And you will notice that as the balloon is inflated, it's so tight that the balloon wants to watermelon seed forward, so you have to hold the balloon so that it doesn't squirt forward. So after we successfully dilated with a 4 millimeter balloon, We were then able to advance this Ka2 catheter, which is now here, over the 018 wire, remove the 018 wire, and insert an Amplatz, an 035-inch Amplatz extra stiff wire. And that's what's going on here. This is the 018, excuse me, the 035 wire being advanced into the central circulation. Once the 035 wire is in place, we took the Ka2 catheter out and advanced a 6 millimeter by 4 centimeter ultra non-compliant balloon, it's actually a conquest balloon, into the innominate SVC junction and inflated it to rated burst pressure, which is 30 atmospheres. And again, we did this in a head to tail overlap fashion, starting at the innominate SVC junction until the last inflation was performed so that you could see the tail of the balloon in the pocket, and it's always further back than you would expect it to be. And then from there, the case was fairly straightforward. There's a little bit of a difficulty advancing the wire into this through this area here, but using the vein selector it was easily accomplished. So from this case, I think it seems clear that the ability to cross an occlusion and perform venoplasty is a skill that reduces cost and improves outcome, and is something that might be considered as part of the training program for physicians who implant devices. Thank you for your attention.